2004 was a very important year in every way. On television, we would see the premiere of Power Rangers, Dino Thunder in Thailand. A tsunami would destroy everything in its path. Meanwhile, in the WWE universe, there was a new atmosphere. Everything was changing because while some big stars were about to leave, new ones were ready to take their place. However, in my opinion, we were about to enter one of the best years in WWE history. Shout out to Luisito, who commented from San Luis Potosi, Mexico. Remember to leave your comment and you'll get a shout out in the next video. Don't forget, no matter what, to give this video a like. Last year, Triple H's reign of terror intensified with Evolution's arrival. Brock Lesnar stayed dominant as WWE Champion on SmackDown. The Undertaker mysteriously vanished from television after losing a buried alive match to Vince McMahon. That's how we would get to the first event of the year, the Royal Rumble, where in the match for the World Championship, the Game would be defending his title against an old friend, Shawn Michaels, in a last man standing match. Meanwhile, the Beast defended his title against an unexpected hardcore challenger, Holly. Before getting there, the midcard would see Batista and Ric Flair defend the Raw Tag Team Championships. Rey Mysterio defeated Jimmy Noble for the Cruiserweight title against the Dudley Boys. The Guerreros would come to blows when Eddie faced his nephew Chavo. Brock Lesnar made quick work of his challenger and retained the title. Triple H and Shawn Michaels wrestled for over 20 minutes before the Game retained the title. The Royal Rumble was still left, and after entering at number 1 and lasting over an hour, it would be Chris Benoit who defied all the odds by ending up as the last man standing. Now, with the choice to face either the Raw or SmackDown World Champion at WrestleMania, he must consider his decision carefully. As the company headed into the second event of the year, No Way Out, set to take place on February 15th and being an event exclusive to the Blue brand. Would it focus on the final challenger for the WWE Championship before WrestleMania? But who would this challenger be? Well, after winning a Royal Rumble to earn the number 1 contender spot. On the January 29th SmackDown, Eddie Guerrero challenged the Beast. The rest of the event would see Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty successfully defend their tag team titles against the Basham Brothers. Chavo Guerrero would win the Cruiserweight title after defeating Rey Mysterio and Kurt Angle. He would score a major win against John Cena and Big Show in a triple threat match. Still, no matter how big these matches were, the main event was what people were really interested in. Because after overcoming numerous addiction problems and rebuilding his life, Latino Hit had finally made his way to the main event. With only a month left until WrestleMania and strong speculation that Brock Lesnar would face Goldberg for the title, few expected Eddie to win, which made it magical. After just under 30 minutes, he hit a frog splash and got the 3 count before jumping into the crowd to celebrate with his people. In one of the most emotional moments in WWE history, yes, after so many years of struggle, Eddie was now at the top of the mountain as the company's champion, but he couldn't relax easily. Because just a month later at WrestleMania, he had to defend that title against Kurt Angle. If we pause before WrestleMania, the Hall of Fame would return after almost 2 decades with this new class, including big names like Harley Race, superstar Billy Graham, Jesse the Body Ventura, and Bobby Heenan. But that was just the start of an action-packed weekend, as the next night, March 14th, WrestleMania 20 would be held at the legendary Madison Square Garden. The show would start off strong when John Cena defeated Big Show to win the United States Championship. Things would get even more intense when Trish Stratus turned heel and aligned herself with Christian to betray Chris Jericho. The Rock had his last match for almost a decade when he teamed up with Mick Foley to face Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair. And Molly Holly, weeks earlier, had risked her hair for a title shot against Victoria. Unfortunately, that night she lost to the Black Widow and got her head shaved bald. The fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. Then, Brock Lesnar and Goldberg would finally meet one-on-one, with the stipulation that since neither of them could be trusted to have a clean fight, Stone Cold was brought in as a special guest referee. Unfortunately for everyone involved, it was leaked to the public before the match that both Lesnar and Goldberg planned to leave WWE after this fight. With Brock in particular getting tired of the brutal schedule, and with the fans realizing this, they booed the entire match, making both men visibly upset and not putting in enough effort to deliver a good fight. Fortunately, the next match would be better, as after being away from the company for a while, The Undertaker would make his triumphant return to face his brother Kane. But this was not the biker incarnation of Mark Holloway that fans had gotten used to over the last 2 years, to their delight. This marked the Deadman's return with Paul Bearer at his side. So the live audience went crazy seeing the Phenom return to WWE after 5 years. He defeated his brother in under 10 minutes, extending his streak to 12-0. Then came the two most important matches of the night, the first of which saw Eddie Guerrero successfully defend his title against Kurt in a sneaky way. Very original. Then comes the second one, with fans excited. The night's final match featured Triple H defending the World Heavyweight Championship against both Royal Rumble winner Chris Benoit and Shawn Michaels. Because his feud with the Game was still unresolved, he managed to insert himself into this match. That being said, he wouldn't walk away with the gold here, as after just over 24 minutes, it would be the rabid Wolverine who forced the champion to submit to become the new leader. But even that wasn't the end of the night, because once this was over, his real-life best friend, Eddie Guerrero, would join him in the ring. And from there, the two celebrated together in a moment that, while magical at the time, has since been almost erased from history because of what happened afterward. Eddie would keep ruling the blue brand. Benoit would head to the next big Raw exclusive show, Backlash, ready to defend against Triple H and Michaels in a rematch. Of course, since this event was in his home country Canada, there was no way he would lose the title here. And that's why, after a match that was possibly even better than the first, he found himself coming out victorious, when he made Shawn Michaels submit with a sharpshooter in a clear tribute to Bret the Hitman Hart, since in other matches. Chris Jericho got revenge on ex-girlfriend Trish Stratus and her new partner Christian, while Mick Foley ended his feud with Randy Orton in a legendary hardcore match for the Intercontinental title. This was the match where the Legend Killer proved he could be the next great champion. Because after defeating Foley, his slow and steady rise to the top kept gaining momentum. That said, this storyline would have to be put on the back burner for the following month. Because since Raw had Backlash as a Red Brand exclusive event, Judgment Day on May 16 would be SmackDown only. And this show would focus on the WWE title feud between Eddie Guerrero and the newly renamed John Bradshaw Layfield, who gained massive heat here by attacking the Latino Heat's Mexican heritage. Of course, given the nature of the storyline, most people expected the champion to retain in this match, and even though he did, the biggest concern at the end of the match would be his health, since after taking a brutal chair shot halfway through the match, he would lose a terrifying amount of blood. Enough to need an emergency transfusion once everything was over, but that's not the only remarkable thing that happened on this show. Since The Undertaker would continue gaining momentum on SmackDown when he scored a victory over Booker T, all the while, John Cena's rise gained even more momentum as he defended his United States title against Rene Dupree. The next event would be from Raw, and it would be called Bad Blood, during which Chris Benoit had a double duty. Not only teaming up, but also successfully defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Kane. In addition to that, Trish Stratus would win the Women's Championship in a fatal 4-way match, which also featured the champion Victoria, Lita, and Gail King. Randy Orton would defend the Intercontinental Championship against Shelton Benjamin and the fan favorite. Eugene would get his first victory at an event when he made Jonathan Coachman submit, then in the main event. Triple H and Shawn Michaels would finally put an end to their feud when they fought inside a Hell in a Cell, with Triple H coming out victorious here after 47 minutes of a hard-fought match. Then, Triple H would enter into a mini feud with Eugene on Raw, and Shawn Michaels would step away from the main event scene for a while. SmackDown centered on the Great American Bash, with John Cena opening the show by defending his United States Championship. Booker T, Rene Dupree, and Rob Van Dam in a fatal four-way. After this, Kurt Angle, who at that time was serving as the interim general manager of the Blue Brand after an injury, stood in the corner of newcomer Luther Reigns as he quickly disposed of Charlie Haas. After that, the big WWE title rematch between Eddie Guerrero and John Bradshaw Layfield would take place. This time, however, having learned from his previous defeat, would he be ready for the Latino heat once the bell rang? And that's why, after just over 19 minutes of their match, Texas Bull Rob would outsmart the cheater and surprise everyone by becoming the new WWE champion. But more awaited after his loss to the Dudley Boys in a handicap match. The Undertaker would say goodbye to his former manager, Paul Bearer, when he buried him under 6 feet of cement and now freed from his manager. The Phenom would be free to focus on the new #1 contender for John Bradshaw Layfield's title at SummerSlam. But there was an event in between before getting to the summer event, and it would be Vengeance, an event exclusive to the Red Brand. At this event, Batista's rise continued. Edge became the new Intercontinental Champion by defeating Chris Jericho and pinning Randy Orton. Victoria beat Molly Holly with a super kick, while Matt Hardy and Kane's feud over Lita continued to another level. The main event, this would be Triple H's last chance to get an opportunity against Chris Benoit and his World Heavyweight Championship. So realizing that this was all or nothing, the game threw everything he had at the champion, but while this forced Benoit to push himself more than ever, it wouldn't be enough for Triple H to get the victory, because after interference from Eugene towards the end of the match, the champion was able to execute a quick roll-up. And wouldn't that then lead to the end into SummerSlam? On August 15, where seeking revenge against Eric Disher's nephew, Triple H would face Eugene one-on-one. Kane would get a victory over Matt Hardy, something that, according to the pre-match stipulation, meant that Lita would be forced to marry him in a later episode of Raw. Then, as if that weren't wild enough, John Cena and Booker T began a successful best-of-5 series, with Cena and Edge each earning a win. He kept the title worldwide in a triple threat match with Batista and Chris Jericho. Kurt Angle returned from an injury to have a classic match against Eddie Guerrero, and John Bradshaw Layfield managed to retain the WWE title after The Undertaker was disqualified during their match. But in the main event, the champion wasn't so lucky, as Chris Benoit entered the ring with top contender Randy Orton and quickly realized his time was up. And so, after 20 minutes, the Legend Killer, who was able to do what Triple H couldn't when he pinned Benoit, to become WWE's youngest world champion at just 24. He wouldn't have much time to celebrate, as the next night on Raw, his furious protege had surpassed him. The game would kick the new champion out of Evolution, and this would set up the main event for Unforgiven on September 12th, where the two now former teammates would fight for the top prize of the Red Brand. But before that, at Unforgiven, Chris Jericho would defeat Christian in a ladder match for the Intercontinental title. A title that had been vacated weeks before this, when Edge suffered an injury in the ring. Then, in the main event, Triple H proved he was still the man by securing a tainted victory over Orton after 24 minutes and 47 seconds, losing his world title after only 28 days. If you thought the reign of terror was over, you were very wrong, because despite everything, Triple H still dominated Raw, for now. However, while all this was happening, on SmackDown they had other things to worry about, and they were getting ready for No Mercy on October 3rd. And what was good about this show? The Blue Brand would focus on building new stars in the mid-card. Since Luther Ranks had the chance to shine against Eddie Guerrero in a singles match, and Rene Dupree and Kenzo Suzuki were able to defeat Rob Van Dam and Rey Mysterio for the WWE Tag Team titles. Of course, that doesn't mean the main stars didn't have a place. That's right, because later in the show, Big Show and Kurt Angle would face off one-on-one. John Cena wrapped up his best-of-5 series against Booker T with another win for the Doctor of Thugonomics. And in the main event, John Bradshaw Layfield would once again successfully defend against The Undertaker, proving to everyone that he was more than just a paper champion. He may have been battered and bloodied, but a win was still a win to set up his match with Booker T at Survivor Series. But along the way, Raw would hold the Taboo Tuesday event with the peculiarity that all the matches would be voted on by the fans. Yes, this was the first Taboo Tuesday on October 19, a weekday show letting fans pick from 3 options when it came to things like stipulations and opponents for each match, and that would lead to some interesting situations throughout the night. Since being selected to face Chris Jericho for the Intercontinental title, at the beginning of the show, Shelton Benjamin would win the belt, making the fans feel like they had a voice in the company's decision-making. Also, Gene Snitsky will face Kane in a weapon of choice match, following Kane's kidnapping and impregnation incident. Within the storyline, obviously Lita only for Snitsky to accidentally cause her to have a miscarriage. Chris Benoit and Edge would become World Tag Team Champions when they were chosen to face La Resistance. And would Eugene get to shave Eric Bischoff's head according to the fans' wishes after getting a 3 count on him? We would also see Shawn Michaels get one more shot against Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship after the voters decided that he was worthy. We also saw Randy Orton battle Ric Flair in a steel cage. Although Orton won this last match, the night wasn't a disaster for Evolution, since the game at least retained during his match. However, Evolution was already nearing its end as a later Raw episode hinted Batista had turned on his leader and could expose himself at any time. All of this caused a huge reaction from the live crowd, and Vince McMahon would already start making plans for a big showdown the following year between Triple H and Batista. Survivor Series, featuring both Raw and SmackDown, took place on November 14, with Shelton Benjamin continuing his Raw Intercontinental Championship run. With a victory over Christian on the Blue Brand side, The Undertaker quickly disposed of Heidenreich in a one-on-one match. After this, we saw 2 world titles defended when Trish Stratus picked up a victory over Lita in the women's division and John Bradshaw Layfield. With his cabinet's help, he secured another men's division victory when he faced Booker T. And of course, as is tradition at this event, we also got to see 2 Survivor Series elimination matches. On the SmackDown side, the Guerrero team, Eddie, The Big Show, Rob Van Dam, and John Cena would defeat Team Angle. With this team, Kurt, Mark, Jindrak, Luther Reigns, and Carlito. In the Raw brand match, Team Orton, Randy, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, and Maven defeated Team Triple H, which included The Game, Batista, Edge, and Gene Snitsky. However, SmackDown still had one more event, with Armageddon held on December 12 as the year's final show. And this event had some pretty intense matches, since after Carlito got his henchman, Jesus, to attack John Cena with a knife at a nightclub a few weeks earlier, the rapper was looking for revenge. Needless to say, Cena came out victorious at the end of his match with Jesus. Just like Big Show when he defeated Kurt Angle, Luther Reigns, and Mark Jindrak in a 3-on-1 handicap match. 2 young competitors from the Dog Ugg program would have their first chance to shine at an event, when Daniel Puder faced and defeated Mike Mizaning in a Dixie Dogfight match. While Mizaning would later become more famous, at this moment you wouldn't guess it given how inexperienced he was. Even so, it was clear that he still had a lot of work to do. If he wanted to become a great main event star, John Bradshaw Layfield would defend the title in a fatal 4-way match against Eddie Guerrero, Booker T, and The Undertaker. But even so, despite the odds being completely against him, the champion managed to retain once again when the final bell rang. And this meant he would have the honor of closing the year as the leader of the Blue Brand. Aside from a brief visit to Iraq for a tribute show for the troops on December 18th, this would mark the end of WWE's year. And so it ended, probably one of the best years in all of history. We found ourselves in another tremendous year. We're talking about 2005,